Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In today's world, information is everywhere. Every day we hear opinions, advice, news, and ideas from many different sources. Social media, television, friends, and even strangers constantly tell us what to believe and what to think. But there is one powerful skill that helps us understand the truth and make better decisions. That skill is critical thinking. Critical thinking means using our mind carefully before believing something. It means asking questions, analyzing information, and thinking logically instead of simply accepting everything we hear. People who develop critical thinking become better problem solvers. They make smarter decisions and avoid many mistakes. In this video, we will explore powerful lessons that explain the power of critical thinking and how it can improve our life. Lesson 1. Do not accept everything immediately. One of the most important habits of a person who thinks critically is that they do not accept every piece of information immediately. In today's world, we receive an enormous amount of information every day. We hear opinions from friends, read posts on social media, watch videos online, and listen to advice from many different people. Because information is everywhere, it becomes very easy to believe things quickly without thinking deeply about them. Many people simply accept what they hear, especially if the information sounds confident or if many people repeat the same idea. When a statement is repeated again and again, people often assume it must be true. But critical thinkers behave differently. Instead of believing something instantly, they pause for a moment and think carefully. They understand that not every piece of information is accurate. Some information may be incomplete, misunderstood, or even intentionally misleading. Critical thinkers train their minds to question what they hear. This does not mean they reject everything. It simply means they examine information carefully before accepting it as truth. For example, imagine hearing a claim about a new method that promises instant success or a shortcut to achieve great results. Many people may immediately become excited and believe it without thinking. But a critical thinker will ask a few simple questions. Is this claim realistic? Where did this information come from? Is there evidence or proof that it works? Have other people successfully used this method? By asking these questions, the person begins to evaluate the information instead of blindly accepting it. This habit protects them from being influenced by false ideas or unrealistic promises. Another important reason to question information is that people sometimes share opinions instead of facts. An opinion may be based on personal experience or personal belief, but it does not always represent the full truth. For example, one person may say that a particular career path is the best choice for everyone. Another person may strongly disagree and suggest a completely different path. Both individuals may be speaking honestly, but their views are shaped by their own experiences. A critical thinker understands this difference. They listen to different viewpoints and analyze them carefully instead of immediately deciding which one is correct. In addition, questioning information helps us develop independent thinking. Many people follow the crowd because it feels comfortable. When everyone around them believes something, they assume it must be correct. However, history shows that the majority is not always right. Many important discoveries and innovations happened because someone questioned commonly accepted beliefs. They refused to accept things simply because everyone else believed them. Instead, they examined the facts and searched for deeper understanding. This kind of independent thinking is a key part of critical thinking. Another benefit of not accepting information immediately is that it improves our decision-making. When we take time to think before believing something, we avoid many mistakes. Quick decisions based on incomplete information often lead to problems later, but thoughtful analysis leads to smarter choices. This habit also strengthens our intellectual curiosity. When we question information, we naturally begin searching for answers. We read more, learn more, and explore ideas more deeply. Over time, this curiosity expands our knowledge and improves our understanding of the world. It is important to remember that questioning information does not mean being negative or suspicious about everything. It simply means being thoughtful and careful. We remain open to new ideas, but we examine them before accepting them. This balanced mindset helps us learn while also protecting us from misinformation. Developing this habit requires patience and practice. At first, it may feel easier to simply accept information as it appears, but with time, questioning and analyzing information becomes natural. We begin to notice details that others might ignore. We start asking better questions and seeking clearer answers. As a result, our thinking becomes stronger and more precise. In a world full of information, the ability to pause and think before believing something is extremely valuable. It allows us to separate truth from confusion and wisdom from noise. And this simple habit becomes the first step toward developing powerful critical thinking skills. Lesson 2. Ask the right questions. One of the strongest habits of people who think critically is their ability to ask the right questions. Questions are powerful because they help us move from confusion to clarity. Many people simply listen to information and accept it without asking anything further. They hear an idea, an opinion, or a piece of advice, and they assume it must be correct. But critical thinkers understand that good questions lead to deeper understanding. Instead of accepting information immediately, they begin by asking thoughtful questions. These questions allow them to explore the situation more carefully and discover whether the information is accurate, logical, and useful. Questions help our mind analyze information more deeply. For example, imagine someone tells you that a certain strategy is the best way to achieve success. Many people may simply believe it and try to follow that strategy without thinking about it. But a critical thinker will begin asking questions such as, why is this strategy effective? Has this method worked for many people? Is there evidence or real examples that prove this idea works? By asking these questions, they move beyond simple belief and begin examining the idea more carefully. Asking questions also helps reveal hidden details that may not be obvious at first. Sometimes information is presented in a way that sounds convincing, but when we ask deeper questions, we discover weaknesses or missing facts. This is why strong thinkers always remain curious. Curiosity is the desire to understand something fully instead of accepting it on the surface. Curious individuals want to know how things work, why something happens, and what evidence supports a particular claim. This curiosity strengthens critical thinking. Another important benefit of asking questions is that it improves learning. When we actively question information, our brain becomes more engaged in the learning process. Instead of passively listening, we begin to interact with the ideas. This interaction helps us remember information better and understand it more clearly. Students who ask questions in class often learn more effectively than those who simply listen silently. The same principle applies to everyday life. Questions also help us avoid misunderstandings. Sometimes people communicate ideas that are unclear or incomplete. If we do not ask questions, we may interpret the message incorrectly. But when we ask for clarification, we gain a better understanding of what the other person truly means. For example, if a coworker gives instructions for a task, but the instructions are not completely clear, asking questions can prevent mistakes later. Instead of assuming we understand everything, we ask for more details. This habit improves both communication and productivity. Asking questions also encourages open-minded thinking. When we ask thoughtful questions, we invite different viewpoints and perspectives. This helps us see situations from multiple angles. For example, when discussing an important topic, asking questions such as, "What other perspectives should we consider?" or "What might be the possible consequences of this decision?" helps expand our understanding. Critical thinkers do not limit themselves to a single viewpoint. They explore different possibilities before forming conclusions. Another important aspect of asking questions is humility. People who ask questions acknowledge that they do not know everything. They are willing to learn and improve their understanding. This attitude creates opportunities for growth. People who believe they already know everything rarely learn anything new. But those who remain curious and ask questions continue expanding their knowledge throughout life. Asking the right questions also improves decision-making. When we face important choices, thoughtful questions can guide us toward better decisions. For example, we might ask ourselves, what are the possible outcomes of this decision? What risks should I consider? Is there a better alternative? These questions encourage careful thinking and help us make more balanced choices. Over time, developing the habit of asking questions transforms the way we think. Instead of simply accepting ideas, we become active thinkers. We analyze information more carefully and seek deeper understanding. This habit strengthens our judgment and helps us navigate complex situations with greater clarity. In a world filled with information, asking the right questions is one of the most valuable skills we can develop, because every meaningful answer begins with a thoughtful question. And when we learn to ask better questions, we also learn to think more clearly and wisely. Lesson 3. Analyze information carefully. Another important part of critical thinking is learning how to analyze information carefully. In everyday life, people are constantly exposed to new ideas, opinions, and claims. News reports, social media posts, conversations with others, and many other sources provide information that influences the way we think. Many people react to information very quickly. They hear something and immediately form an opinion without examining the details. Sometimes they agree with something simply because it sounds convincing. Other times they reject an idea quickly because it feels uncomfortable. But critical thinkers take a different approach. Instead of reacting instantly, they slow down and analyze the information carefully. They understand that information can sometimes be incomplete, exaggerated, or misunderstood. Because of this, they take time to examine it before forming a conclusion. Analyzing information means looking at the facts, understanding the context, and considering the reliability of the source. For example, imagine hearing a claim about a new product, a business opportunity, or a method that promises quick success. The claim might sound very attractive, and many people may immediately believe it. However, a critical thinker will pause and begin analyzing the situation. They might ask themselves questions such as, is there real evidence supporting this claim? Is the source trustworthy? Are there other explanations or possibilities? By examining these factors, they gain a clearer understanding of the situation. Careful analysis helps prevent mistakes that come from rushed thinking. Another important part of analyzing information is recognizing bias. Bias occurs when information is presented in a way that favors a particular viewpoint or interest. For example, a person selling a product may only highlight the positive aspects and ignore potential disadvantages. Similarly, someone promoting an idea may present only the information that supports their argument. Critical thinkers understand that information can sometimes be influenced by personal interests or perspectives. Because of this, they examine multiple sources and viewpoints before reaching a conclusion. They ask whether the information is balanced or whether important details might be missing. Analyzing information also requires logical thinking. Logic helps us connect ideas in a reasonable and consistent way. When information is logical, the conclusion follows clearly from the evidence. However, sometimes arguments contain logical errors. For example, a person might make a general conclusion based on only a few examples. They might assume that something is true for everyone simply because it worked for a small number of people. Critical thinkers pay attention to these logical patterns. They examine whether the reasoning behind a statement is strong or weak. Another useful habit when analyzing information is comparing different perspectives. Instead of relying on a single source, critical thinkers look for additional information from other reliable sources. This comparison helps reveal whether the information is widely supported or whether it is questionable. When multiple independent sources provide similar evidence, the information becomes more trustworthy. But if different sources strongly disagree, it becomes important to investigate further. Analyzing information carefully also protects us from emotional manipulation. Sometimes information is presented in a way that triggers strong emotions such as fear, anger, or excitement. When emotions become intense, people may stop thinking logically and react impulsively. Critical thinkers recognize this pattern. They remain calm and examine the information objectively instead of allowing emotions to control their judgment. Another advantage of careful analysis is improved decision-making. When we analyze information thoughtfully, we gain a deeper understanding of the situation. This helps us make better choices because our decisions are based on facts and reasoning rather than assumptions. Over time, the habit of analyzing information strengthens our thinking abilities. We become more attentive to details, more aware of hidden assumptions, and more confident in our judgments. Instead of being easily influenced by every new idea or opinion, we learn to evaluate information independently. This independence is one of the greatest benefits of critical thinking. It allows us to navigate complex situations with clarity and confidence. In a world where information spreads rapidly, the ability to analyze information carefully becomes extremely valuable. It protects us from mistakes, improves our understanding, and helps us make wiser decisions. And by practicing this habit regularly, we gradually develop a stronger, clearer, and more disciplined mind. Lesson 4. Learn to separate facts from opinions. Another essential part of critical thinking is learning to separate facts from opinions. In everyday life, people constantly hear statements, ideas, and beliefs from many different sources. Sometimes these statements are based on real evidence, but many times they are simply personal opinions. The problem is that many people treat opinions as if they are facts. When someone speaks confidently or strongly about something, others may believe it is true without examining it carefully. But critical thinkers understand that there is a clear difference between a fact and an opinion. A fact is something that can be proven with evidence. It is based on data, observation, or verified information. For example, if a scientific study shows a certain result, or if historical records confirm an event, those are facts because they can be supported with evidence. An opinion, on the other hand, is a personal belief or viewpoint. It may be based on experience, emotions, or individual preferences. Opinions are not necessarily wrong, but they are not guaranteed to be true for everyone. For example, one person might say that a certain career is the best choice for success. Another person might disagree and believe that a different career path is better. Both individuals are expressing opinions based on their experiences and beliefs. Critical thinkers recognize this difference. Instead of accepting every statement as a fact, they examine the evidence behind it. They ask questions such as, is this statement supported by reliable evidence? Is this information based on data or personal belief? Can this claim be verified? By asking these questions, they can identify whether the information is factual or simply an opinion. Separating facts from opinions is extremely important because opinions are often influenced by emotions, experiences, or personal interests. A person may strongly believe something because it worked for them personally, but that does not mean it will work for everyone. For example, someone might recommend a specific method for learning or achieving success because it helped them. Their experience may be genuine, but it is still an opinion rather than a universal fact. Critical thinkers remain open to these opinions, but they do not accept them blindly. They examine the evidence and consider different perspectives before forming their own conclusion. Another reason this skill is important is that modern communication often mixes facts and opinions together. In news reports, discussions, and online content, it is common to see information presented in a persuasive way. Sometimes opinions are presented so confidently that they sound like facts. Without critical thinking, it becomes easy to misunderstand the difference. People who develop strong critical thinking skills learn to pay attention to the language used in statements. Words such as always, never, or everyone knows often signal that the statement may be based on opinion rather than proven evidence. Careful thinkers examine whether the claim is supported by data or simply by personal belief. Separating facts from opinions also improves discussions and decision-making. When people understand this difference, conversations become more meaningful. Instead of arguing emotionally, individuals can focus on evidence and logical reasoning. For example, if a group is discussing an important decision, identifying the facts allows everyone to build a clear foundation for their discussion. Opinions can still be shared, but they are recognized as viewpoints rather than unquestionable truths. This approach encourages respectful dialogue and thoughtful analysis. Another benefit of this skill is that it protects us from being misled. Many advertisements, persuasive speeches, and online posts use strong opinions to influence people's thinking. If we cannot recognize the difference between facts and opinions, it becomes easy to be influenced by emotional arguments or persuasive language. But when we develop the habit of examining evidence, we become more resistant to misinformation. Over time, learning to separate facts from opinions strengthens our thinking abilities. We become more careful about the conclusions we draw and more confident in our judgments. We begin to rely on evidence and logical reasoning instead of simply following what others say. This skill does not mean rejecting opinions completely. Opinions can be valuable because they provide insights and experiences from different perspectives. However, critical thinkers treat opinions as ideas to consider rather than facts to accept automatically. By practicing this habit regularly, we train our mind to analyze information more carefully and objectively. And as we become better at distinguishing facts from opinions, our understanding of the world becomes clearer and more accurate. Lesson 5. Consider different perspectives. Another powerful part of critical thinking is learning to consider different perspectives. Many people tend to see situations only from their own point of view. They form an opinion quickly and then focus only on information that supports that opinion. When someone disagrees with them, they may reject the other person's ideas without listening carefully. However, critical thinkers behave differently. They understand that most situations in life are complex and can be viewed from multiple angles. Because of this, they make an effort to understand different perspectives before reaching a conclusion. Considering different perspectives helps us see the full picture. For example, imagine two people discussing an important issue. Each person may have a different experience, background, or source of information. Because of this, their viewpoints may be very different. If each person only defends their own opinion and refuses to listen to the other side, the discussion will not lead to understanding. But when people listen to different viewpoints with an open mind, they gain a deeper understanding of the situation. Critical thinkers know that every perspective may contain valuable insights. Even when they disagree with someone, they still listen carefully. They try to understand why the other person thinks the way they do. This habit helps them discover new ideas and identify details that they may have missed. Another reason why considering different perspectives is important is that it reduces bias. Bias occurs when we see a situation only through our own beliefs or preferences. When bias influences our thinking, we may ignore important facts or misunderstand the situation. Critical thinkers try to reduce bias by actively exploring different viewpoints. For example, when evaluating an important decision, they may ask themselves questions such as, what are the possible advantages of this idea? What are the possible disadvantages? How might other people see this situation? These questions encourage deeper analysis and prevent narrow thinking. Considering different perspectives also improves problem solving. Many problems cannot be solved effectively if we look at them from only one angle. When we examine multiple viewpoints, we often discover new solutions. For example, in a workplace or team environment, different members may have unique experiences and skills. By listening to each person's ideas, the group can create better solutions than any single individual could create alone. Critical thinkers value these diverse viewpoints because they strengthen understanding and creativity. Another important benefit of considering different perspectives is that it encourages empathy. Empathy means understanding how other people feel or think. When we take time to listen and consider someone else's perspective, we begin to understand their experiences and challenges. This understanding improves relationships and communication. Instead of reacting with anger or judgment, we become more patient and thoughtful. In discussions or debates, this skill is especially valuable. Many arguments occur because people focus only on defending their own beliefs. They may interrupt others or dismiss opposing ideas without truly listening. Critical thinkers approach discussions differently. They remain calm and respectful. They allow others to express their viewpoints and then analyze those ideas carefully. Even if they ultimately disagree, they base their conclusions on careful reasoning rather than emotional reactions. Considering different perspectives also leads to more balanced decisions. When we examine only one side of a situation, we risk making decisions based on incomplete information. But when we explore multiple viewpoints, we gain a broader understanding of the possible outcomes and consequences. This broader understanding leads to wiser and more thoughtful choices. Over time, the habit of considering different perspectives strengthens our critical thinking abilities. We become more open-minded, more curious, and more aware of the complexity of the world around us. Instead of assuming that our first opinion is always correct, we learn to explore ideas more deeply. This does not mean we must agree with every perspective. It simply means we take the time to understand different viewpoints before deciding what we believe. In a world where people often rush to judgment, the ability to consider multiple perspectives becomes a powerful advantage. It helps us see situations more clearly, solve problems more effectively, and make decisions with greater wisdom. And by practicing this habit regularly, we develop a more thoughtful and balanced way of thinking. Lesson 6. Control your emotions while thinking. One of the most important parts of critical thinking is learning how to control emotions while making decisions or analyzing information. Emotions are a natural part of being human. Feelings such as excitement, anger, fear, or happiness influence how we react to situations every day. However, when emotions completely control our thinking, our judgment can become weak. We may react quickly without examining the facts carefully. Many people make decisions based purely on emotion. When they feel angry, they may say things they later regret. When they feel excited about an opportunity, they may accept it without checking whether it is realistic. When they feel afraid, they may avoid opportunities that could actually help them grow. Critical thinkers understand that emotions can sometimes cloud clear thinking. Instead of reacting immediately, they pause and allow their mind to calm down. This pause creates space for logical thinking. For example, imagine someone receiving criticism about their work. An emotional reaction might be to become defensive or upset immediately. A person might feel attacked and respond with anger, but a critical thinker reacts differently. Instead of responding emotionally, they pause and analyze the situation. They ask themselves questions such as, is this criticism helpful? Is there something I can learn from it? Is the feedback based on facts or misunderstandings? By examining the situation calmly, they can respond more wisely. Controlling emotions also helps prevent impulsive decisions. Impulsive decisions happen when we act quickly without thinking about the consequences. For example, Someone might become excited about a business opportunity and invest money immediately without researching the details. Later, they may realize that the opportunity was not as good as it seemed. Critical thinkers avoid this mistake by slowing down their thinking process. They take time to gather information, evaluate the risks, and consider possible outcomes before making a decision. Another reason emotional control is important is that emotions can influence how we interpret information. When we strongly like or dislike an idea, we may unconsciously ignore facts that challenge our belief. Our emotions push us to defend our opinion instead of examining the evidence objectively. Critical thinkers try to remain aware of this tendency. They remind themselves that personal feelings should not replace logical analysis. Instead of asking, "Do I like this idea?" they ask, "Is this idea supported by evidence?" This shift in thinking allows them to evaluate information more fairly. Emotional control also improves communication with others. Discussions and debates can easily become emotional when people feel strongly about their opinions. When emotions take control, conversations may turn into arguments where people focus only on defending themselves. Critical thinkers approach discussions calmly. They listen carefully to other viewpoints and respond thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally. This calm approach allows productive conversations and deeper understanding. Another advantage of emotional control is better problem solving. When people panic or feel overwhelmed by a problem, their ability to think clearly decreases. They may focus only on the difficulty of the situation rather than searching for solutions. But when we remain calm, our mind can examine the problem more carefully. We can explore possible solutions and choose the most effective one. Calm thinking creates better results. Developing emotional control requires practice. It involves learning to pause before reacting and becoming aware of how emotions influence our thinking. Simple habits such as taking a deep breath, stepping back from a stressful situation, or allowing time to think before responding can make a big difference. Over time, these habits strengthen self-control. Critical thinkers do not ignore emotions completely. Emotions can provide valuable signals about what matters to us. However, they do not allow emotions to dominate their reasoning. Instead, they combine emotional awareness with logical analysis. This balanced approach leads to wiser decisions and clearer thinking. In complex situations, the ability to remain calm and think logically becomes a powerful advantage. It allows us to examine information carefully, understand different perspectives, and respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. By learning to control emotions while thinking, we strengthen our critical thinking skills and improve our ability to navigate challenges in life with clarity and confidence. Lesson 7. Make thoughtful and logical decisions. The final and most important result of critical thinking is the ability to make thoughtful and logical decisions. Every day, people make many decisions. Some decisions are small, such as how to spend our time or what task to complete first. Other decisions are much more important and can influence our future, our career, and our relationships. Many people make decisions quickly without thinking deeply. They may rely only on emotions, habits, or the opinions of others. Sometimes they follow what everyone else is doing because it feels easier and safer. However, decisions made without careful thinking can lead to mistakes. Critical thinkers approach decisions in a different way. They take time to understand the situation before choosing a path. Instead of reacting immediately, they analyze the available information and consider the possible consequences. This thoughtful process leads to better outcomes. The first step in making thoughtful decisions is gathering accurate information. Critical thinkers do not make decisions based on incomplete knowledge. They try to understand the situation clearly by examining facts, evidence, and reliable sources. When the information is clear, the decision becomes easier to evaluate. The second step is considering different options. In many situations, there is more than one possible solution. People who do not think critically may choose the first option they see. But critical thinkers explore multiple possibilities. They ask themselves questions such as, what are the different choices available? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each option? Which choice will create the best long-term results? By comparing different options, they gain a deeper understanding of the situation. Another important part of thoughtful decision-making is considering consequences. Every decision creates results. Some results appear immediately, while others appear later. Critical thinkers try to imagine what might happen after they make a particular choice. For example, a decision that seems attractive in the short term may create problems in the long term. By thinking about consequences in advance, they avoid many unnecessary mistakes. Thoughtful decision-making also requires patience. Sometimes people feel pressure to decide quickly. They may feel that waiting is uncomfortable or that they must respond immediately. However, important decisions often benefit from careful reflection. Taking time to think allows the mind to process information more clearly. It helps us notice details that may have been overlooked earlier. Another advantage of thoughtful decisions is confidence. When we analyze information carefully and evaluate our options logically, we feel more confident about our choices. Even if the situation is difficult, we know that we have considered the evidence and made the best decision possible. This confidence reduces stress and doubt. Critical thinkers also remain flexible in their decisions. They understand that new information may appear later. If new evidence shows that a better option exists, they are willing to adjust their decision. This flexibility is a strength because it shows that their goal is truth and improvement, not simply defending their original opinion. Making thoughtful decisions also improves our personal and professional life. In personal life, careful decisions help us manage relationships, health, and long-term goals more effectively. In professional environments, thoughtful decisions help solve problems, manage projects, and lead teams successfully. People who consistently make wise decisions gain the trust and respect of others. Over time, the habit of thoughtful decision-making strengthens our ability to navigate complex situations. Instead of feeling confused or overwhelmed, we learn to analyze challenges step by step. This ability becomes a powerful advantage in a world full of information and choices. Critical thinking is not only about asking questions or analyzing ideas. Its ultimate purpose is to help us make better decisions that guide our actions and shape our future. When we gather accurate information, examine different options, consider consequences, and think patiently before choosing, our decisions become more intelligent and effective. And with every thoughtful decision we make, we strengthen our ability to think clearly and live more wisely. Critical thinking is one of the most powerful skills we can develop in life. In a world full of information, opinions, and constant distractions, the ability to think clearly and carefully becomes extremely valuable. When we learn to question information, ask the right questions, analyze ideas carefully, separate facts from opinions, understand different perspectives, control our emotions, and make thoughtful decisions, our mind becomes stronger and wiser. Instead of blindly following what others say, we begin to think independently and make better choices for our future. Remember, a strong mind does not believe everything it hears. A strong mind examines, questions, and understands before making a decision. If you enjoyed this video and learned something valuable, make sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful lessons about mindset, personal growth, and success. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.